Only a couple of episodes ago, we mentioned that we had never had anyone on this show from the sport of speed skating. So much do we love the sport that we thought we'd just keep talking about it because we're getting closer and closer to Beijing and we want to continue to talk all things Winter Olympic. And we have a massive guest on the show today. He's a 5-time Olympic medalist, 2-time Olympian. Outside of the sport of speed skating, he's dominated the sport of inline speed skating, winning over 50 world championships, over 90 national championships. And the one fact that I also love that I found out in the lead up to this interview, the first ever Texan to win a Winter Olympic gold medal. It's a pleasure to welcome off the podium Mr. Chad Hedrick. Chad, first of all, pleasure to have you on the show today, mate. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here and chat with you this morning.
It's exciting to go through all those achievements, but to actually realize that, to have that distinction that you will forever be the first ever Texan to win a Winter Olympic gold medal. I mean, that's got to rate up pretty highly with all those achievements there, that you, from the great state of Texas, the first ever Winter Olympian to win a gold medal.
Well, honestly, until you said it, I didn't really think of it. I thought how awkward it was from a guy from Houston, Texas, to be able to win an Winter Olympic medal. I never thought of it as the first Texan. So that's kind of cool.
Which I think, if my research is correct, you are one of only two. Justin Olsen won a gold in Vancouver as part of bobsleigh. So I believe there are now only two of you. So it's a very distinct club. And I think as an Australian... Yeah, very. I mean, as an Australian, and we're sort of on the rarity of winning Winter Olympic gold medals. So we kind of feel that from the Texan perspective there, that it's kind of a nice little club to sort of be in. But I'm so fascinated about your career because you basically were born with skates on your feet, Chad. I mean, you essentially were born into the sport in some sort of weird way. Was this always destiny, that you were kind of bound to always end up pursuing skating, be it ice or on non-ice, essentially?
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up in a nutshell really quick so I don't bore everybody. But here's what happened. My parents, they started a family business. And here in America, we have something called roller rinks. It's where people come to roller skate. They listen to music. They have birthday parties. It's the cool place to be when you're in middle school and just getting into the beginning of high school. So as my parents were operating the family business, of course, I was just an infant. And at 17 months old, my mom and dad decided to throw skates on my feet for the first time. And essentially, I learned how to walk on a pair of skates. They tighten the wheels on the conventional roller skates up. And that's really how I learned how to walk. And as soon as my dad started seeing that I was gaining balance and able to handle everything, then what did they do? They came behind me and took that wrench and just loosened the wheels up a little bit at a time. So
Wow.
That progression, within a year's time, I was up and going, man.
Fantastic. Wow. Geez. I always joke when we have our Canadian guests on that they're born with skates on their feet, but I think, even people in Texas are clearly born with skates on their feet as well. Do you remember sort of then at what point you've got this ability to skate, but then all of a sudden you want to skate fast? Like, was that something that as we all do as kids, we kind of want to go fast, we kind of want to do crazy things? Was this something that you just enjoyed, the speed aspect of having these skates on your feet?
Well, as a child, there's memories you can never forget, things that are just in your brain forever. And the things that were important to me, we would have it's simply called the races. And when you get all the kids at the roller rink and there's several hundred kids out there and everybody goes in age divisions, and you get to win like a Coke or a cup of popcorn or whatever when you win. Well, obviously I already got that stuff free anyway. My dad owned the place, but it was really, really important for me to win every race. And I would usually race kids that were 4, 5, 6 years older than me growing up. And in my town, people knew that I had a special gift really, really early. And I just continued to practice and really just invest in myself. And I had a true passion for it. I can look back and I can honestly say, all the hard work that I put into it didn't really feel like work. It felt like it was just something I was supposed to do because that was my gift and I needed to present that to the world, if you will.
Obviously, starting on sort of roller skates and then eventually switching to inline and the success that you had throughout that sport. Just in terms of the Olympics itself, did you sort of harbor any ambitions to be an Olympian at any point before you ultimately switched to speed skating? I mean, were you playing other sports that could have seen you maybe go to the Olympics in a different sport outside of speed skating?
So I played 4 or 5 different sports, highly competitive. It's just my way. It's black or white. Either I'm in or I'm out. And so I played a lot of different sports. But at the end of the day, when I was 15, I had to decide what I was really going to do. And the funny thing you asked about the Olympics was when I was 11 years old, I went to Calgary and they had the Olympics in 1988. We were invited out there by one of my friends and his father. And we went out there for about a week. And it's kind of humorous that the only sport that I didn't watch in the 1988 Olympics live was speed skating.
Wow. Jeez.
You just never know where life's going to take you. And just like you saying, man, you're the first Texan to win a Winter Olympic medal. Well, I bought into that. It was something I was never going to do. And as relative as it was for me growing up in a roller rink, you would have thought that it would have been like important for me to go check out ice speed skating, right?
Yeah.
But it never even crossed my mind.
Wow. That's crazy to think that, because I would assume that seeing an event like that at such a young age would have the ability to inspire you and maybe kind of spark something within you. But maybe it was just a case because you're seeing the bobsled, you're seeing the hockey, you're seeing the skiing, you're not seeing that one sport that you're kind of technically doing.
Yeah. So the progression kind of worked like this. I was on conventional roller skates from, when I could walk all the way till about, I think, probably around 14 years old. We had a club here at our roller rink, and we would travel to different states. And like you were listing off all the national championships, but from a real young age, I was traveling across the country on conventional roller skates. But then we figured out real fast that inline skates were much faster. And then, the rollerblade craze came, and everybody had them. Everybody was skating in the street. Everybody was playing street hockey. It was a big thing here in America. I don't know if it was there in Australia the same.
100%, yeah.
So we changed to inline skates, and it wasn't 4 wheels, it was 5 wheels, and the technology got better. And you got where you could skate 30, 35 miles an hour, which I guess is around 60, 62 kilometers, I guess. So things changed really, really quickly. And then after traveling from 16 years old to 26 to 42 different countries with just a backpack and a pair of skates, with numerous sponsors, and I was a professional and the fastest man in the world for 10 straight years. I would tell people what I did, and nobody even understood what inline speed skating was. Wow. And it was kind of, if I'm honest with you, it was a bummer. It was tough to swallow that you invest your whole life into something, and then there's absolutely no notoriety at all in being the world champion at what you do, and people are like, "What?" So I had a wild hair, and I decided that I was going to switch sports, and I was going to move from Houston. I packed everything up here in Houston and moved to Salt Lake City, where the venue was for the 2002 Olympics in Salt Lake City. And I started over. And that was the path. That was the path. And that's when it really began, and where, I had the opportunity to spotlight my skills on the world level, as far as, getting notoriety and people actually understanding my talent.
Which it's interesting, the one speed skater that we've had on the show, Daniel Gregg, he talked about watching your transition from inline to speed skating, because he was also on a similar path. He was an inline skater and switched to speed skating and kind of took you as a bit of an inspiration. And I mean, it must be an interesting moment, that time when you make that decision and go on to ice, being so used to dominating one sport to all of a sudden basically being on the bottom. It's kind of like when you go from, elementary school, primary school into high school, you're going from the top straight to the bottom again, right? So, I mean, how did you find those initial moments competing when you're finding your feet, literally, and then working your way up to the ladder, which eventually led to an Olympic gold medal?
Well, being the best in the world at something and then going and starting over again. There was a lot of expectations from other people. They knew that I was coming over. The worlds are connected, but not connected, if you know what I mean. And so I went there, and there was a really challenging time for me because I went out there, and the first day I really remember going out there and just thinking this wasn't the right move for me, and really being challenged for the first 2, 3, 4 months. And I had to look myself in the mirror and say, you know what, this is make or break time. And if I'm going to do this, I need to go as hard as I can, and I need to learn as much as I can. And fortunately for me, I chose to fight. And 4 months later, we had qualifications for the U.S. national team, and I was actually able to qualify for the national team just after 4 months on the ice, which was crazy. And just a year and a half after that, I was world champion. And then just over 2 years, I went to Torino, Italy, and won the first gold medal for Team USA for our country. And this was all happening just so quickly, almost to the fact that I really couldn't digest it. It was people didn't expect somebody coming from Texas to do the things that I did, and I took the sport overnight and really changed a lot of things about it. My style, the speed skating world was more of a time trial type. You race the clock type of sport. And I came from a racing background. And so all the middle distance to long distance races became races. They weren't time trials anymore. They were, hey, I'm going to skate fast. And then the last 3 laps, 4 laps, I'm going to look at my partner on the other lane, and it's going to be a test of will. And so I think the thing that I'm proudest about is really impacting the sport in a way that it really was a test of your strength, your mental strength at the end of a race, to be able to say, you know what, we're not racing a clock, we're racing each other, and I'm about to bury you, and I want to see what you have. It was a complete mind shift versus the traditional speed skating from years and years ago, where they were out there skating pretty and had this smooth technique. This was a different mentality where you just look at them and you're like, okay, it's time to go. What do you have,
It's crazy to think that progression, that as you were saying, that with only a few years you literally switch a sport and then you're an Olympic champion. I mean, that's just insane, Chad, to think that. I mean, what is that moment like when you were standing on the dais here in the Star Spangled Banner with that medal around your neck? I mean, was it just a case of, all right, well, this is what I wanted, on to the next one, I can keep going for the rest of these Olympics?
It definitely happened fast. And I just thought about all the times that I invested in myself and never gave up, and all the friends that had, I mean, quite honestly, when you're an athlete at this level with this type of commitment, there's a lot of sacrifices that are made. And I remember the things that I did growing up that led me to a life in junior high and high school that was much different than your normal kid. I didn't know any better, and I'm proud that I was able to withhold and really just continue that schedule, that mentality, that focus on being the best, because there's a lot of things that are deterrents for you to reach that. And I have friends come up to me today that I went to high school with, and they tell me this straight to my face. They say, Chad, we had no idea what you were doing when we were in high school, but we wish we would have been doing it with you now.
Wow. Jeez. That's crazy.
That,
Which, I mean, does that...
That's just a huge compliment that you're able to, the commitment levels there. And,
Yeah.
and that there was no finish line. There was really like, I was going from this to this to this and this progress. And there was no real, like, this is the finish line. I was just doing it because I loved it. And I was committed and I was passionate. And guess what? It took me somewhere, but really I had no idea where I was going. All I knew is I liked it.
Which is what you want to do. You want to do something that you like, obviously, at the end of the day. But, I mean, also going back to your point where you said that you were winning multiple world championships in one sport and many people weren't knowing what you were doing. But then all of a sudden, you win one race and you become a household name. You come back from Italy with 3 medals around your neck as well. I mean, it kind of, how does that feel, knowing that you've dominated one sport for a decade? I mean, if you were doing that in speed skating, you'd probably be up there with the Michael Phelpses of the world as, one of the most, famous names in the US, but you've changed to one sport. You've won 3 medals, which you probably just do on a Saturday at a usual inline meet. Now, all of a sudden, everybody knows your name.
Well, what a lot of people don't know, we almost made the Olympics in 1996 for the Atlanta Olympics with inline skating. And when that happened, it was kind of the peak of inline speed skating, that era right there. And when it didn't happen, it really took the air out of my tires. And it was very disappointing. I always think, what if that would have happened? And how different would my life have been? How would I have been able to impact those around me? Would I ever have ice speed skated? And the answer is probably not, because people would have realized, the talent that I had, and I would have been able to represent my country the way that I wanted to in front of the world and in front of billions of people. And that 1996 moment kind of changed everything. And so that, from 1996 to stepping on the podium in 2006, that was a strange time where I never thought I was going to be able to be an Olympian. And then all of a sudden, overnight, I had that opportunity. So I was determined to make it happen.
Before I touch on Vancouver, the man that you beat in Turin, a certain Sven Kramer, may have gone on to win a few more gold medals over the years, maybe the last 3, potentially a 4th very, very soon. I mean, how do you look back now thinking that you beat maybe who will become the greatest speed skater of all time to win your gold medal? I mean, does that kind of add a little bit of weight on it, seeing the success that Sven has gone on to have since you beat him back in Turin?
I mean, it seems like he's been winning for 20 years now since I quit. I mean, if we're honest, it's I got to experience something very interesting in sports, and nobody's too good to reach a point where it's the end of the road. And I went and I raced for many, many years, and I always stepped to the line, and I knew that I was going to win, or I knew I was highly likely to win. When I was 32 years old, Sven Kramer introduced me to the opposite side. For the first time in my life, I knew there was a guy that was 6 or 8 years younger than me, that may have been a little stronger than me, that recovered a little better than me, that may have been a little more confident than me. And that introduced me to the decision that I had to make to move in a different direction after 2010. And everybody in the world, it doesn't matter if you're Michael Jordan, everybody in the world at one point or another faces that. And it's a somber time, honestly, but it is one that everybody faces, and we're all human. And, since then I've watched Sven just dominate the sport. He's the greatest of all time. And for me to think that was I was the last person to really beat him in his core events. Was certainly an honor, and him and I have become great friends since. And it's pretty special just to know and look back and see where he is now and how we battled early on.
We also beat him again come Vancouver in the team pursuit, the famous semi-final win, of course. You went on to win the silver in that event. I mean, how do you rate that medal up against, say, your gold from Turin, beating a highly fancy Dutch team, in Olympics, when we all know how good the Dutch are generally when it comes to the speed skating? I mean, was that almost as good as winning the gold in Turin to be able to achieve that?
Let me tell you, the team pursuit, beating the Dutch was probably my biggest accomplishment in sports. Everybody says, oh, well, it's a silver medal. Yeah, well, you know what? I had two partners that were in their first event as Olympians. It was my time to really become a leader and really encourage these guys and get them in a position to perform their best. We almost won the gold medal. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot about life through that event right there, and really going past speed skating and starting a life in business afterwards. I always look back at that moment and understanding how I can encourage, how I can challenge, how I can hold those around me accountable for their actions. And that moment before that race with those two kids, those two rookies, was definitely a moment that really molded me as a leader way beyond sports. So I'm so thankful for that. But people think I'm crazy that a silver medal was my biggest accomplishment.
Well, when you're beating the Dutch, I mean, it's no different to, if you mentioned Michael Jordan, if you're beating the 1998 Chicago Bulls in the the conference finals on the way to losing the NBA finals, I'm sure you'll take that in some weird way, won't you? Because you beat the GOAT at what he's doing at his peak, right?
Well, let me say at the time, I'm reflecting now, but at the time, second place kind of sucked, if we're honest.
But now. It's one of those sort of moments you can sort of look back on and sort of realize that achievement. Because I sort of read a few interviews with you where you talked about sort of after Turin how you kind of had a different mindset coming home with not ultimately 3 gold medals, but I mean obviously now 15 years later you can sort of reflect on that differently. And do you find that kind of helps you, as you were saying then, in what you pursued after your Olympic career? You're obviously now into real estate and everything along those lines too, and that those sort of challenges that you overcome and can reflect on now are helping you in your professional life now.
Yeah, let me tell you, when you're the best in the world at something, and ultimately you have to stop at one point, which everybody does, there's a transition period, and kind of I explained this to somebody this weekend, kind of like your only child got taken from you, got kidnapped. It's what you focused on and what you've invested everything in your whole life. And all of a sudden it's gone. And there's a lot of identity that's behind that. You figure out who you are as a man, what's important to you, what your life is based on. And it's a deep, deep moment. And there's a lot of failure that follows that, because you're starting something new again. I go back to that first day coming from inline skates onto ice skates. It's a test. It's a test whether you're going to succeed or you're going to throw your hands up and go back where you're comfortable. And every day since then, I retired in 2010. It's been 11 years. There's been a lot of failure. I've had a startup business that failed. I've had a lot of just challenging times as a leader, not only for my own life, but my family, leading my family, my wife, my 3 children, thinking that I'm the provider for our family. I'm the hunter. And the word success has really haunted me for a long time because I was used to having massive success. And when you go and you start a complete new life, you're not the best the next month after you stop skating and you enter the world of sales, or you enter the world as whatever it may be, whatever that next step is. It takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. And so for me, I went back to that 17-month-old, lock your wheels up as tight as they could, restrict me so I can learn how to do this. And it's been a process. And 11 years later, I'm so thankful. There's been a lot of scars, a lot of pain, a lot of tears. But ultimately, man, I've learned so much about myself. My business is now thriving. I have a business that is built on leadership, accountability, dedication. I have people around me in my business that are excited with the way that I'm leading and the way that I'm helping them. And the silver medal race, I mean, I go back to it all. It's full circle, man.
Great. And the business from gold to sold, I love the name of it. It just works perfectly, Chad. I mean, tell us quickly a little bit about it and people who are maybe listening, where they can find out if they're listening to us in Houston or wherever they are to maybe, get in contact if they're interested in what you're providing.
Yeah, so Houston is a melting pot, man. We have, I think we're the third or fourth largest city in America now. We're very cultural. And, a lot of people are coming here. We've got a great economy. My team, Gold to Sold Group, we started about 3 years ago. I've been building it. I built my own personal business, and now I'm bringing people in to make a difference in people's lives around me, people that I see promise in, and that I'm challenging them to be able to serve their clients and build a real business. And we work under Compass Real Estate, which is the luxury brokerage here in the U.S. And we have been serving clients for, like I said, 3 years now. We've worked with over 150 families, and it's been absolutely incredible to be able to. I love it because everybody needs a place to live. And it's as corny and cheesy as it sounds, a lot of things in life with your job don't really affect people. They don't really there's no fulfillment behind it. And ultimately, when you find somebody a great place to live, or you affect, the family, kids wanting to go to certain schools, or a kid wanting a swimming pool, it's silly, I know. But at the end of the day, when you sign those papers with them, man, it's a great feeling to know you serve people and you've strengthened relationships. And this is just my experience. And I was in the oil and gas business before, selling software, and I would do it. And at the end of the day, it was just a transaction. So for me, with Gold to Soul Group, I've been able to really have some impact on the world. I've been able to be fulfilled through my business, and man, that's what I've been seeking.
But please tell me that when you do sell a house, that you whip out the gold medal and sort of bring it to a celebrate. Like, I feel like there needs to be something happening there, Chad. Like, it's in the name itself, right? Like, you've got to bring it out.
Yeah, so we have a big logo that looks like a medal. And it's getting to the point where people are actually requesting for us to bring that with us, because that's important for them, for that photo and celebrating, which is super cool. It's like You're building a brand. The other day I went to the Apple store. This is just a crazy example, but I went to the Apple store at the mall. The Apple store doesn't even have a logo in front of it. People just know what it is. Yeah. It's the craziest thing. Yep. So building a brand and something that people are excited about and are recognizing is something that's super cool. And relating our business with excellence and dedication and sacrifice and luxury, that's kind of where we are. And I've got people on my team that are committed to doing that. And we we have some great people that are working along with me to make it happen.
Fantastic. If people want to check it out, plug it. Go for it, Chad. Where can they find out more information?
Yeah, well, you can call me at 866-383-GOLD or go to goldtosold.com. I serve clients from all around the world. We have referral partners all around the world. So believe it or not, I've had even some Dutch clients coming in to the oil and gas business here in Houston, and I've been able to serve them. So it's
they're not hanging on to resent from 2010 or anything. Then they're over it.
Yeah, they're okay. Actually, the Dutch are probably the best sports fans I've ever seen in my life. There's no hard feelings, and if I walked into Amsterdam right now, they probably want to give me high fives. It's been a pretty cool thing.
Great. Chad, it has been an absolute pleasure to be able to hear about your amazing career and everything that you've been up to since. And we've got a friend now joining us on there. Is this a new puppy? Is it? Looks very young.
Yeah, about 3 months old here. We just had a dog pass away here about 4 months ago. So we got this little girl. This is Honey.
She's gorgeous. Wow. There you go. Wow. Well, just a bonus to this great chat. Chad, seriously, a lot of fun, mate. Really appreciate your time. And is this the part where I say go Astros right now? Obviously quite
that's right.
appropriate.
That's right. Yeah, don't worry about the American football team. Like that's horrible, but it's Astro fever right now, and everybody's really, really excited about it.
Fingers crossed. Go Astros, Chad.
I'm impressed with your knowledge of American baseball.
I will say that as a White Sox fan, I may still be a bit sad over you knocking us out. But, they always say that once you get knocked out, right, you should go for the team that knocks you out, I feel. So maybe that's why I can hang on to that and not necessarily go along with being bitter. So I'll go Astros, basically. You knocked us out, so I'll keep going for you guys.
Unless they're the Red Sox or the Yankees, then you don't.
Exactly. Screw those guys. We don't care about them. Chad, seriously, mate, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us on Off the Podium today.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.